Hello everyone and welcome to Willow Cove Crafts, my channel here on YouTube where I talk about knitting and sewing and my other crafty endeavors. My name is Emily. You can also find me on Ravelry and on Instagram as Willow Cove Crafts. And as always, if you like today's video, please leave it a thumbs up, leave it a comment, and don't forget to subscribe. Today's video is gonna be a little bit different for me, something I've never done before. I've gotten requests for this type of video from quite a few people. Today, we're gonna be talking all about WIPs or works in progress, specifically the ones that are lying lost, forgotten, neglected in a pile in the bottom of my closet. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you may have heard me mention time and time again that I absolutely love casting on. It is my favorite part of the knitting process. And I also think I lack a little bit of impulse control when it comes to casting on. And so those two things put together kind of means that I'll start a project and then inevitably I'll get distracted by the next new shiny thing and I don't finish that first project before casting on the next project. And then I don't finish that project before casting on the project after that. And the cycle continues, and it means that I have a lot of unfinished projects. And so I thought that it was time to pull some of those projects out into the light of day and talk about them a little bit, share them with you, and then make a decision as to whether I want to keep that thing and finish it eventually or rip it out. All in all, if I had to estimate how many unfinished projects I have, I would maybe say 30 to 40, which is so many. Way too many to cover in one video. So I decided to make this into a bit of a series where I will release a handful of videos where I go through eventually all of my works in progress. So to start today, I went into my pile of sad WIPs and pulled out all of my sweater and top projects, and there was 12 of them, which also seems like a lot to do in one video. So I thought this week I would do sweaters part 1, where I show you 6 of my sweater projects, and then next week we will do sweaters part 2, where I show you the rest of them. And then I have a little bit of a schedule for myself. So throughout December and January, I will get to the other categories. We're gonna do socks, shawls, quilts. We're gonna cover it all. But without further ado, let's talk about some sweaters. So again, I think I'm gonna give you some like basic information about each sweater, the pattern, the yarn, and then if I can remember when I started it and why I stopped working on it. And then I also want to do a little bit of a try on if the sweater is in a try-onable state. And then we're gonna make a decision as to whether to finish it or frog it. For those of you that maybe don't know, frogging is a term that knitters use a lot for ripping out their projects, because as you pull that yarn out, you're rip it, rip it, rip it. So frogging is just a little cutesy term we use to talk about something that's really majorly upsetting, which is ripping out your knitting. I thought I would start with my most recently abandoned project, which is the Cargill Sweater by Rebecca Clow, I believe is how you say her name. She is the designer behind Crea Designs and the Crea podcast. Here's where I'm at. So we are about halfway down the body and finished with one sleeve. The yarn I am using to knit this is Emilia and Philomene. I'm dropping things. Ugh. Emilia and Philomene. Which is a fingering weight merino and a silk mohair blend held together. These are both in the colorway Tiffany. And yes, I started this project in late July, and I started this as a test knit. Rebecca kindly chose me to help test knit this pattern, and the pattern has since been released. It was released about a month ago, and so clearly I was a failure as a test knitter. I did not finish it, and since then I've kind of stopped working on it because I have had a couple other projects on the go. I really wanted a new hat, so I knit a hat. And then I wanted to participate in the West Knits Mystery Knit Along, so I did that. And now I'm working on a Christmas sweater. So that's, you know, kind of my active project at the moment. And this one has just kind of gotten a little bit lost. So it hasn't been out of rotation for too long. I would say it's been about like a month and a half since I last worked on this. But sadly, it's that thing of like, it's just kind of keeps getting pushed out further and further. This one I do really want to finish. And I think after I finish my current sweater project, which I will talk about during my next kind of normal episode, once I'm done with that, I do want to get back to this one because it is pretty close to being done. Just have to finish out the body and one sleeve. So this one's gonna be a keeper. I absolutely love it. I cannot wait for it to be finished. Yeah, let's try it on and see how it is fitting. All right, so I've put my knitting barber cords in, which are really amazing for trying on sweaters while they're in progress. And here we are. So, not the best angle. I'm sorry my head is cut off, but I figured you'd rather see the sweaters. But yes, it is such a great sweater. I'm so happy with the fit. And the sleeve is perfect. It's about bracelet length. It might grow a little bit with blocking, but I'm really happy with how that is fitting. And yes, this is definitely going in the keep and finish pile. My next sweater project is the Tove Sweater by Gregoria Fibers. Here is where I am at. Again, this is like so close to being done. I'm completely finished with the body and I'm about halfway done with the first sleeve. So a sleeve and a half to go and this puppy would be done. I am knitting this sweater out of 3 strands of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair held triple in the Flamingo colorway, which is It's not a hot pink, but it is a brighter, more saturated pink. And I started this, I had to go look back at my Instagram, and that kind of helps me figure out when I started these things and why I abandoned them. But I started this sweater in March of this year, early March, and I think the reason I started this was because, so I had surgery in late February, and so like one of the last couple days in February. And so then in early March, I was kind of in the midst of recovery, and I was off of work for 3 weeks after that surgery. And I just wanted something fresh and new to work on. And it was also early spring. And so I wanted to work on something that was a bit brighter than my normal color palette. And so I started this sweater, and I stopped working on it for no particular reason, just the classic, you know, I wanted to start something new. And so I cast on a new project and started working on that and lost sight of this one. So I'm gonna try this one on for you, and then we'll decide what to do with it. All right. Let's put this guy on. Okay, so hello everyone. I remember thinking this when I was working on the sweater, that this one is a bit short. So as you can see, this is the top of my pants, and it is like just coming to the top of my pants. I do think, so this sweater is a full fisherman's rib, which I have read online blocks out quite a bit. So I'm not super concerned with how short the body is, because I do think it will grow a little bit with blocking. And, you know, besides that, I do really love the fit of this. I think it's super cute. I think this shape is pretty trendy at the moment. It's got a drop shoulder, it's a bit oversized, and it's a little cropped, which, yeah, I would really like it if it was like this long, which I'm able to pull it that long. So hopefully, like with blocking, like I said, it will grow a bit. And I really like this sweater. This one is definitely going into the keep pile. Maybe I'll pick this one up again in the springtime when I'm in more of a mood to knit with this kind of color, but still really, really like this one. This is a brief intermission because I took my thumbnail photo for this episode and everything was fine when I did that. And now I am dealing with the worst yarn barf situation I've ever had to deal with. Let me show you. Look at this. Look at this. To you, this will be, you know, moments with the power of editing, but I think this is gonna be like a half an hour at least of untangling. What a nightmare. All right, I was able to at least separate the projects. The yarn within each project, however, is a different story. I'll show you that in a minute for an upcoming thing. Yarn barf. Another side effect of unfinished projects is somehow that yarn just like gets all tangled up on itself. It's truly incredible. Anyways, my next sweater whip is one that I think I've already decided I'm gonna frog. And that is the Shifty Sweater by Andrea Mowry. And by already decide, I mean I've already took the needles out. I just haven't actually ripped out the yarn. Undone the yarn? I don't know. But here's this sweater. I was knitting it out of the recommended yarn, which is Spincycle dyed in the wool. I believe in 4 colors. I think I was using Deep Bump, Salty Dog, Cold Comfort, and Verba Volent, I think is how you say it. I decided to rip this sweater out for a couple reasons. One of them is, so conceptually, I really like the idea of this sweater, and I picked these colors because I thought it made it kind of look like a Monet painting. If you're not familiar, real quick, so I have one of the balls here. Spincycle dyed in the wool is a color shifting yarn. And so as you can see here in this skein that's getting majorly blown out, the color does change within the ball of yarn. And so it creates this effect of, you know, changing color. And then, you know, within this pattern, you use a couple different colorways. And so I thought it looked a lot like a Monet painting until, I mean, it still kind of goes with the theme, but I got to Salty Dog. Excuse me, I have like a frog in my throat today. Salty Dog, which is Spincycle's yellow, or one of their yellows. And I had used this yarn before on a different project, and it was much more mustard. And this is a pretty bright yellow. And there's a lot of green in it, which I was surprised by. That's kind of the nature of Spincycle, and the beauty of Spincycle is that every skein is different. You never quite know what you're gonna get. But I did order the yarn for this sweater and was surprised at how different this skein was compared to when I have used this colorway in the past. And so then I got to the point in the sweater where I introduced this color, and I thought it just looked a bit stark compared to the rest of the sweater. Looking at it now on screen, I don't think it's that bad, but I didn't like these like kind of soft pastel colors and then this sudden bright yellow. I thought it looked a little jarring, like it didn't look quite cohesive. What I thought might be better, I still think this color palette can work, but I think it would be better to, you know, introduce the yellow maybe a little bit more regularly within the stitch pattern instead of just having this single band of yellow starting right under the armpit. So that was reason one. That is like forgivable, I think. Like it wasn't an absolute deal breaker for me, but the big reason I decided to rip this one out is how it was fitting, which I will show you now. Let's try this one on. I forgot to mention that I started this project in August of 2019, which I believe is when this pattern was released. And I saw it and I loved it and I needed to have it. You all know how that goes. And yeah, I didn't even get that far in it. I basically got to the armhole split and called it quits. I think it was this yellow. I really fell out of love with it once I got to the yellow. Not that there's anything wrong with this yellow, it just kind of threw me off a bit. So this is a circular yoke sweater, and I have knit another circular yoke sweater by Andrea Mowry and haven't had any problems. And I do want to call out that I believe she has since made updates to this pattern to make it fit a little bit better, but I want to show you what I mean. This sweater is not fitting well. So let's put it on. Let me make sure I have it on the correct way. Yes. whenever I've tried this on, it like bunches up. It bunches up in the back and I have a hard time kind of straightening it out. Yes, so you can probably see what I mean, that it's got this like really weird puckering right at the armpits. And maybe that would block out, but I thought it looked pretty severe. And like I said, I don't think that's just me. I do think this sweater got a lot of feedback about fit when it was first released. And like I said, Andrea Mowry has made modifications for it. I think it would fit a lot better now if I started from scratch and re-knit it using her updated instructions. But yes, it is just not something I think would work well. So this one is definitely gonna get frogged. I just don't think I would wear it. I really like the color still. And now that I'm looking at it, the yellow is not too bad. So maybe I think I'll reuse this yarn to knit a different pattern. I don't know which one, but I think it would be neat to use this color shifting effect maybe in, you know, a drop shoulder pattern or a more oversized pattern, or maybe I'll just completely re-knit the shifty using the new instructions. But yes, this is just not doing it for me. So this one is gonna get ripped out. All right, next up is the Jensen Cardigan by September Knits. And I have decent progress on this one. I am about 5 or 6 inches past the sleeve separation. This is a pretty basic raglan style cardigan. I was knitting this in 2 strands of Holst Supersoft. This is so tangled. Holst Supersoft in the Pebble colorway. I had a cone of it and wound off about half of it. Per my calculations, that should be enough to knit a whole sweater. And I started knitting this sweater in either late January or early February. Again, it was right around the time that I had surgery, and I remember working on this leading up to my surgery, and then I had the surgery and abandoned this for the Tove Sweater, which I've just shown you. So yes, we've come full circle. Anyways, let's try it on. All right. Cardigans are so much easier to get on than pullovers, aren't they? So as you can see, pretty basic cardigan, and I really like the fit of this one. I really like that the fabric is, it's knit at a looser gauge, so it is a pretty light cardigan. And yeah, I definitely think I'm gonna finish this one. I think it would be a really great staple to have in my wardrobe. So not a ton more to say. This is a keeper. I feel like I would wear it all the time. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this one. All right, this next one, I purposely wanted to do it back to back with the Jensen Cardigan because I think that they are very similar. So this sweater is the Big Sister Cardigan by Hinterm Stein. I'll put that on the screen. And here it is. You are not seeing double. This is a different sweater. I recognize that they are very similar, or it's very similar to the Jensen Cardigan. And I was knitting this out of Plymouth yarn Homestead in the medium gray heather colorway. And this is probably one of my oldest sweater whips. I started this, I honestly don't even remember when I started this, probably 2017 or 2018. Yeah, it's at least 4 or 5 years old. Yeah, I usually, like I said, I try to go back on Instagram to find pictures of this sweater. And I think I started this before I was super active on Instagram, maybe even before I had an Instagram, because I couldn't find any pictures of it freshly cast on, which is why I really have no idea when it got started. This sweater is almost done. I'm on the bottom band and, you know, I have started one of the sleeves, but I do think I'm gonna frog this one. The reason being, it's so similar to the Jensen Cardigan, and I like that one better. I do really like this pattern. However, I don't think this one is fitting as well as the Jensen Cardigan, and I don't need more than one simple cardigan in this like brownish gray color. It is a color I really like, but you know, I want to knit something that's different. I don't need 2 basic cardigans in the same color. I'd rather have a basic cardigan and a basic pullover. So yeah, I do think I'm gonna frog this one. My plans are to repurpose this yarn to make the sweater number 11 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. That is a worsted weight yarn held with a mohair. I've even already bought the mohair, so that plan is pretty set in stone. I just have to rip this out. So let's try it on. I will show you where I'm having some fit issues. But yeah, I do think this one is gonna go to the frog pond and get ripped out. But I do have exciting plans for the yarn, so it's not a complete loss. So my big problem with the fit of this sweater is in the sleeve. I am finding that the sleeve I started is fitting quite tight. So, you know, I have to like really work it to pull it up. It's really nice on the sleeveless side. But yeah, I think this sleeve is just a little too tight. That's like something that could be fixed kind of easily. But like I said, I'm just not feeling this cardigan anymore. I want to reuse this yarn for something else. So I do think I'm gonna frog it. Something else that I didn't love about this cardigan was this split detail. I thought it looked a little weird, but I did it anyways, and it has bothered me ever since. Again, that's a quick modification. I didn't have to do that, but this was like a bit earlier in my knitting days when I wasn't as confident in making modifications, and so I just did it, and I don't like it. And that is something that's farther up the sweater. I would have to frog the whole thing back up to the top in order to fix that, and I just don't want to. So this one, unfortunately, is going to get ripped out. And that brings us to my last project of the day, which this is a fun one. I was excited to pull this one out. It's a bit older. I went back and I think I started this in December of 2018. I do remember it was Christmas time, and I didn't get very far, but I do think I'm gonna finish this one. It's a little bit different for me, and that is the Penguono by Stephen West. And you know, I've talked a lot about Stephen West on this channel. His patterns are quite wacky and unique, which is not really my personal style at all, but there's just something so fun about his patterns. And I saw the Penguono and I went back and forth on it a bit. I didn't know how I felt about it, and then I decided that I really wanted to knit it. I thought it would be a fun thing to have to wear around the house. I don't know if I would ever wear the Penguono out in the world, but I do think it would be like a nice robe type item to have for the home, just to wear around the house. So I do think I'm gonna finish this one. It's, you know, I've basically just got the back panel, so I'm not going to be able to try it on to show you because it's not really try-onable at this point. But I still really like the colors I picked. I went for more of a pastel muted palette. And I remember I knit this back piece up in a couple of days. This is a pretty quick project. There was a loud noise outside. I don't know if you could hear that. So I do think once I pick this back up again, it will go relatively fast. Part of the reason I am avoiding this sweater is because of the yarn barf situation that I mentioned before. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Oh my God, I'm dropping it more and it's just like, this is not something I want to deal with, but I think I'm going to have to someday in order to finish it. Part of what the problem is I was knitting this with a strand of mohair and 2 strands of fingering. And so each of these balls of fingering weight yarn I'm pulling from the outside and the center. And then I have, oh God, it's all tangled around my tripod. Oh my God. And then I have 2 different strands of mohair. I just kind of wanted to use up some stash yarn when I started this. And so I had some tan and white mohair. So I, you know, have been mixing up the color of the mohair. And so like, and then there's 2 different colors going at the same time, or like 2 different, you know, bundles of colors. I don't even know what goes with what, but it has created just a really scary situation. And I'm gonna have to figure that out, but I do want to finish this. I don't remember what yarns I was using. I believe the mohairs are both from Knit Picks. I think it's probably like just oatmeal and white. And then the colored yarns, I have no idea. I think I have the tags still. So when I pick this back up again and show it on, you know, one of my regular episodes, I'll definitely let you know what the yarns are. But I have no idea. They're all hand dyed, kind of more speckly yarns. Yeah, there's a couple in here that I'm not even holding, like this tan and, you know, this purple. But yes, I will definitely, once I get back to this, do a better job of figuring out what these yarns are. So yes, this one I'm keeping, even though I am afraid of it and just don't want to deal with it, but I will get around to it again someday. All right, that is everything for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, something a little different for me, but I am hoping to start doing some more different types of videos, not just the traditional, you know, here's what I'm working on, here are my projects. So if you have any video suggestions or topics that you would like me to talk about, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear your feedback and get, you know, some ideas of things that you would like me to discuss here on my channel. Make sure you tune in next week when I go through the second half of my sweater whips. And yes, again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk with you next week. Bye, everyone.